Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Sports. I am Ralph LaBella.
And I'm Ron Sen. Well, time flies when you're having fun, and the last 20 years have been a lot of fun for the Patriots, not so much this past Sunday night. I was reading a book about Belichick by Ian O'Connor, and it's 17 plus years now since Tom Jackson proclaimed that everyone hates hates Belichick because they can't stand that he'll release veteran players and he doesn't communicate with the players. And then that was after the Lawyer Malloy release, and the Bills won the opening game of the 2003 season, I believe, 31-0. So once again, people tried to bury the Patriots only to see them come back and win the Super Bowl. And it seems, I'm not saying they win the Super Bowl, but again, people have this love-hate affair with burying the Patriots only to be have it thrown back in their face.
Yeah, I think they remember last year when they lost to Miami, then Pittsburgh, everybody was down on them. And then they came back and played their best football at the end of the season. So you hope the offense can get going.
Yeah, last year they lost to 5 teams that didn't make the playoffs, and they didn't look like a super team, but they did what they had to do. And Belichick was in the process of changing the philosophy of the team from an offensive or balanced approach to a more defensive approach. Now, obviously, people are really upset about the offense right now, and also obviously the receivers are not getting open. When you see the wide shots that they show on replay, you know, Brady just has nowhere to go with it. And when his completion percentage goes below 50%, it's because he's throwing the ball away intentionally to avoid sacks. So you can't really argue with that.
Yeah, and Harry did what on the interception what Seattle did in the Super Bowl. They let the defensive back cut him instead of cutting sharp and getting position, and that's where Brady was upset. And they were interviewing one of the Patriots about that, and they says, well, you know, he's young, he maybe doesn't understand that he has to make that sharp cut. Brady was expecting him to do that. But, you know, things like that are happening. Brady's thrown in one spot and they're in the other.
Right. There was one play where Jacoby Myers, I think, was supposed to break off and go deep when Brady was, I don't want to call it scrambling, but eluding the rush. And he didn't do that. So then Brady threw it long and nothing happened. But those are the growing pains you're going to have with younger receivers. And, you know, they got Antonio Brown. Is it it's Belichick's fault that Antonio Brown turned out to be Antonio Brown?
Yeah, and they're dropping too many passes, too. Sanu's big drop on 4th and 1, wide open. The pass is exactly where it's supposed to be. You know, I think there's a chance they could come back. I think if Brady gets into the right attitude and starts working with these younger players, you know, they have Sanu, Edelman, Dorsett, the 2 young guys. I mean, it could work. They're running a little better, you know.
Yeah, Dorsett's not getting open at all, which makes me think he's probably hurt. Didn't he have a hamstring?
He's got speed, too. He's fast.
Right. Well, that's why I think he's probably hurt. Last week in college football was rivalry weekend. And years ago, there was a team that Melrose used to have called a rivalry with another town. I won't name the other town, but the Melrose coach said, how is it a rivalry when one team's won the last 18 games? And that's kind of how it is right now for Ohio State and Michigan. Michigan hasn't won for the last 8 meetings, and Harbaugh is, I guess, the first coach to lose the first 5. You have to wonder if the natives are going to get restless up in Ann Arbor.
Yeah, they won't fire him because they're doing pretty good. But you're playing Ohio State, the top team in the country, them and LSU, so... You know, I don't think they're going to fire him. I mean, they're going to go to a half-decent bowl.
And then, I don't know if you saw any of the Iron Bowl. I mean, Alabama is almost like the local team up here now because they're on every single week. And all they had to do was play any defense at all against Auburn, but they didn't play any defense at all. And once again, probably no team has ever been more victimized by kicking than Alabama. So they missed an extra point and lost by 1.
Well, how about that field goal? They missed that.
They returned.
Auburn kicked at the end of the first half.
Oh, right.
I mean, that was a joke. That rule's terrible.
Right. What happened was there was a a booth review on a play that ended at 1 second with no timeouts. So then, whereas whether the guy caught it or if he caught it and he were down, the clock simply would have run out because the ball would have had to been spotted. There was no way for them to stop the clock. So instead, they have this booth review and they can line up for a field goal. So that seems like a rule that needs to be changed.
Well, the problem is that the rule that should be is that you can't kick a field goal in that situation
Right.
because you don't have enough time to get your field goal. You have a chance to run another play, but not a field goal. So they can get right there and even then, when they spot it and the clock starts, I don't know if you can snap it fast enough.
Right. Well, it's like in basketball. They have these rules about if you want to catch and shoot, there has to be, I think, 0.3 seconds on
Right.
the clock. And if there's less than that, all you can do is try to tip it in and so forth. But, I don't know that anybody's feeling really bad for Nick Saban because Alabama certainly won a lot. But it was one of those rivalry games that obviously Alabama's eliminated from national championship consideration.
They don't deserve it with that defense.
No,
they have.
if you give up 48
Worst
points.
well, 2 of them were pick sixes. 2 of them were pick sixes, and those were big. The one down at the 4-yard line of 1st and goal, guy picks it off, runs it all the way back. Instead of Alabama scoring 7, Auburn scores 7.
I haven't heard yet whether Tagovailoa is supposed to. He had hip surgery, and is somebody in the NFL going to draft a guy in the top, 10 picks who just had hip surgery? I don't know.
Well, they're going to be studying the X-rays and all that to see
sure.
where he is. He's on crutches now. He's no longer, in a wheelchair. So,
right, and then I'm sure that.
But he wasn't going to be a top 2 or 3 pick anyway.
Well, I think they were talking to him right at the top. I mean, there's other quarterbacks that are really good. The LSU quarterback Burrows, obviously, is another consideration. He's terrific.
The Alabama quarterback's going to play in the pros. You watch.
Who, Mac Jones?
He's got a good arm run.
Yeah, I mean, he just needs more experience,
Yeah.
and I'm sure
What
he
year
will.
is he in? Do you know?
I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
the brother's there anyway. I don't know when he's going to take over.
And the Ohio State quarterback is also from Georgia. So Georgia's been a productive area for college football players for a long time, but it's amazing how many really terrific players there are. Another team that I was disappointed in this weekend, I thought Minnesota was really good, and they got to play against Wisconsin to get to the I guess it must be the Big 12 championship, and that didn't go well at all for Minnesota. So probably a lot of bad feeling up there. One of the greatest kickers in the history of the game as far as making clutch field goals, it's looking like the end is at hand. So Vinatieri had 2 blocked, including 1 for a touchdown, and he missed a field goal. And
he should have quit after last year.
Yeah, it certainly looks like the clock has run out on Adam. And
It'd be nice if they cut him and the Patriots pick him up.
yeah, stranger things have happened.
Yeah.
They had I don't even remember who they had last week. The Patriots.
Oh, I know.
Folk had an appendectomy. And I don't know, how is a guy ready to play, even kick a week out for an appendectomy or 2 weeks out?
What was that all about when the Patriots were going to go for 2? Brady didn't like it because there was 7 in the box, so he gets the penalty. Now they have to kick the point after for 5 yards further, and it just goes wide.
Right. So that didn't seem like a brilliant play either.
I think the Pats are setting everybody up right now.
Yeah, well, they certainly got him where they wanted.
They're going to play the best game of the season against KC, and everybody's going to be sky high again.
Well, I mean, they flew down to Houston with 2 planes because they had a number of players who had some sort of infection. I don't know if it's the flu or whatever. Cannon looked terrible. Now, he was one of the guys who was sick. I don't know if Jonathan Jones was one of the guys who was sick, but he didn't look like himself out there at all. And you're never going to hear Belichick make excuses about health. That's just not going to happen. All he'll ever say is, we didn't play well, we didn't execute well, and we didn't coach well. That's kind of a standard line, but it certainly makes sense. Now, the team that's been hot is, aside from Baltimore, who's now in the number 1 seed position, is Tennessee. And Ryan Tannehill, who was left for dead, has taken over from Marcus Mariota, and I think he's won 5 out of 6. And they've been putting up something like 35, 36 points a game with him at the controls. So, Vrabel, who scored 10 touchdowns with the Patriots, because he also played tight end, has really got things turned around in Tennessee. Now, I imagine they must have a couple of tough games down the stretch, probably with...
I think Tennessee plays Houston twice.
Yeah,
twice in 3 weeks.
Right. So that's, they'll... Usually, I would think in a series like that, with 2 really good teams, you probably get a split.
They'll split that.
Yeah.
And Baltimore continues to play really well.
Yeah, Baltimore, I think they have Buffalo this week.
At Buffalo.
Right. So, Buffalo's got a very good defense. Now,
as a Patriot fan, who are you rooting for?
I'm not even sure. I mean,
Pats are 1 game ahead of Buffalo.
I know.
They got them at home, and Baltimore is their tie with Baltimore.
Well, if the Pats lost somehow to Kansas City and Buffalo, then Buffalo could win the division. So...
No, but who would you rather see win that game?
I don't know.
I'd like to see Buffalo win the game, because if the Patriots win out and Buffalo beats Baltimore, they're the number 1 seed. You don't, right now, that's what you're looking for. You're looking at when they're playing Buffalo at home, they should beat Buffalo.
Well, Josh Allen's improved his touchdown to interception ratio over the past few weeks. Now, that's not to say that it's going to happen again when they play the Patriots, but, Sean, what's his name, McDermott, has done a really good job with Buffalo. They kind of have the same weaker schedule that the Patriots have this year, so maybe that's part of it. But, I think that Buffalo is kind of turning it around. So we'll see. It should be a really competitive game. Today, Carolina finally fired Ron Rivera. He's been a difficult situation in that Cam Newton's been hurt, and with Newton out, they've been going with second. I think they're down to the 3rd string quarterback down there. So, how many teams in the NFL or any league, college football, are going to win with the 3rd string quarterback? Probably not a lot. So, I don't know how. Certain teams in the league, when you're trying to figure out what's going to happen week to week, Carolina and Atlanta especially, you have no idea. Look at this week. Another team, the Jets. They started to pick up a little, and then they get blown out by Cincinnati, who hasn't won a game.
Then you look at Atlanta, wins 2 big games. One of the games against New Orleans, and they go up against Tampa, and Tampa beats them good. It's weird. You think that Atlanta's on their way, they get crushed. It's really something the way this.
And the play of the week had to be the Dolphins. You see that? So they line up they've got 3 linemen flanked out on each side. They have the center all by himself and the kicker to receive the snap. So you don't know if they're going to try to drop kick the extra point or what. So then they snap the ball to the kicker, who then sprints to the left, and the holder somehow was eligible. I don't know. The center somehow was eligible. I don't know how that works at all. So he flips the ball underhand into the end zone to the center. They score. I'm still trying to understand the play, but it worked. So it was just miraculous. And the Dolphins announcers were losing their minds, which they should have, because the play was so spectacular. Now, Melrose plays in the Super Bowl this week for the 4th time in the past 6 years, so tremendous, against Plymouth South. Needless to say, we don't know anything about Plymouth South. They must be pretty good. And Melrose has a lot of depth. Chris Cusolito, who had a remarkable season, I think it's people's understanding that he's out, although I don't know if that he's been officially announced out. But Matt Hickey had a really big game against Wakefield in the Thanksgiving game, which I don't remember the last time that Wakefield won.
Yeah, it was 2011.
Was that when they missed all the field goals?
Yeah, it was 2011. Melrose has won every game since then. It's funny because several years before that, they had beat Melrose like 10 years in a row. But Melrose has a big advantage, over the history.
And wasn't this the 20-year anniversary
Yeah.
of the coin flip?
Yeah.
So
That was terrible because Melrose was way better than Wakefield. But then when they had that torrential rain at halftime,
right, that was
and it was a big puddle in the middle of the field, and Melrose was an overpowering team. They were just dominating them, and they were slipping all over the place. And it's the best thing for Wakefield because they were going to get blown out. I remember Kent getting stopped at the 1 yard line at the end of the first half. It would have put them up 21-0. But the thing with Melrose is they're so deep. I picked that when I saw Hickey run once against Revere. One time, he exploded, went 30 yards for a touchdown. It was around 30 yards, quick, strong. But they're just, you lose a great run of the MVP of the league,
right,
Cusalito, and you have Hickey there to run, who's a junior, who's going to be a star next year. Fennell's back next year too, quarterback. He's good. And the person that really impressed me is Pecci, lead blocker and runner. Real good all-around play. They're tough. They're tough as nails. Both lines are tough. Basically you have the same players except a couple positions, but you have the two brothers play both ways,
Well, one of the good points about Hickey didn't carry the ball that much, so he's probably not as beat up as some of the other players.
They mixed it up really well. Even Herbert came in and ran. He's quick. I wouldn't be surprised if Herbert gets the ball, and breaks some big ones in that game. Very good athlete. But they had him at tailback, with Pecci leading them.
I think in the most recent Globe rankings, not that rankings mean diddly squat in the end, but they had Melrose ranked as 7, which is really incredible.
Harold has them 5th.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, Catholic Memorial's ranked 1st, which is kind of incredible that Coach DiBiaso goes from Everett to Catholic Memorial, and then all of a sudden Catholic Memorial is awesome. Now, I'm sure that, he's a terrific coach, no question, but you have to wonder, there's an old saying in football and in basketball, it's not the X's and the O's, it's the Jimmies and the Joes. So
he's going to keep getting them there too.
Well, right. People go where the coaching and the exposure is.
Where he knows college coaches.
Sure. So, I don't blame the schools for recruiting. I think I'm not sure if it's 2021 that the private schools are all being bumped up a division. Now, if you're already in Division I, you can't go higher than that. But that'll change the alignments a bit. A few years ago in volleyball, for example, Central Catholic was in Division II, and they beat Melrose a couple times in the Division II North Finals. And then the next year they're in Division I. Still a good team, but I think that was a couple of teams that Hannah Brickley was on that they just ran into the steamroller that Central Catholic was back then. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I want to shift gears here. The role of captains in high school sports is not an easy one. Different coaches expect different things as far as coordination of the off-season program, the communication, and so forth. And this week, I know the volleyball banquet is going to be happening, and it'll be really interesting to see what happens. In the past, they've had underclassmen as captains from time to time, usually when there are fewer seniors, occasionally when there's outstanding underclassmen leadership. For example, when Victoria Crovo was a sophomore, she got voted/elected captain of volleyball, and she did a terrific job during the 3 years she was a captain. And even as a freshman, she had shown a lot of leadership on that team, which had lost to Bishop Fenwick, I believe, in the sectional finals. And different coaches have a different process. Some people have strictly an election where all the returning players vote. Coach Shelley has a very complex process where you have to apply, and then I don't know if your application can go forward depending on what criteria, but he then presents your situation to other teachers and the principal so So there's a lot of oversight and review. And invariably, no matter what you do, if you have all senior captains or a mixture, somebody's going to be unhappy. And I don't think anybody got into college or didn't get into college because they were a captain of their sports team. But I know kids value the leadership, and parents, of course, enjoy the recognition when their children are succeeding.
Yeah, that year that Victoria got it as a sophomore, when they played Bishop Fenwick, she was a star.
Yeah,
She was the best player. She kept everybody up when things were going bad. And that one game there, I bet you got her that.
Well, Victoria was one of the outstanding students, leaders, players. She was all-state in volleyball. She's in her third year at UMass in a pre-veterinary track. And
Amherst?
Right. And she's just a terrific kid. What made it particularly difficult was that her older sister was a senior when she was a sophomore. So you had the little sister was the captain of the team, but it wasn't because there was anything negative about Stephanie. It was just that Victoria was an outstanding leader. And I have no idea, so I'm not suggesting that there's going to be an underclassman or more than one underclassman as captain. It'll be really interesting, and unfortunately I won't be there because I have another commitment that evening. But volleyball team had a terrific season again. Coach Shelley won his 400th game as a coach, and Emma Randolph was all-state, and I presume she's going to be all Scholastic, probably the Globe and the Herald too. So just another great year for volleyball, both for team recognition as well as individual recognition.
Yeah, but captains, my position in that. I think they're more important than the coaches. The captains, they keep everybody in line away from the gym or away from the field. They're the ones that control. I remember years ago when my son played football, Hill was the captain, Jeff Hill. He threatened them. He said, if you guys get caught drinking and get thrown off the team, I mean, he really he was a great captain. Kids respected him, but he kept everybody in line. It was
well, and the whole issue of substance use and alcohol is something that coaches really fear because I don't ever want to hear it from a high school athlete. There's nothing else to do, so they have to go drink. Unacceptable in my view, but I've heard that discussion before. And if you get caught, you're out for 4 games or 4 weeks. I don't know what it is. It sort of depends on the sport.
4 to 8 games, whatever it is.
Yeah, and it's just totally unacceptable. And in some sports, some players have gotten away with it, and I think it was a matter of the amount of evidence that there was. And in other sports, I always tell the girls, you're not going to get away with it, so don't do it. Don't even think about it. And sometimes they listen, sometimes they don't. You hope for the best.
Now with everybody with their phones too, you can get in trouble there.
Right. When we were kids, they didn't have phones. They didn't have anything close to phones. But nowadays, so if we did something stupid, at least there was no video evidence of it. But nowadays, there is.
I don't know if everybody really appreciates how important the captain's job is, especially to the younger kids coming up. They look up to the captain so much, and you want to keep, we've seen captains, and they've done in volleyball, especially where we've been involved over the years. It's so important. It just makes it for the younger girls.
Well, and sometimes there can be hierarchy structures where upperclassmen try to lord over the underclassmen, but in a team, everyone has a role and everyone's important. And the mentoring that captains and upperclassmen can provide is really important. So when we hear about hazing or bad behavior of a variety of sorts, I want to say it was Needham, where their soccer girls were somehow the upperclassmen had like dog collars on the underclassmen, and ultimately they got suspended from the postseason. I mean, that's silly.
They've been one about that for years, and they're still having problems. Different schools.
Right, and no matter how many times the coaches tell the kids this is unacceptable, there's always an element, well, we went through this, or somebody else we know went through this, so we're going to do it too, which, 2 wrongs don't make a right, as they say. Now, kind couple of big free agents in the NFL next season. Who's the biggest free agent?
Brady.
Brady, of course. And then recently there's been discussion about Amari Cooper. Now, Amari Cooper got shut out when the Patriots played the Cowboys, but I think he would like to go back to Dallas, but it's always about the money. I don't know. I presume Brady's going to be back.
Oh, he'll be back. No other, especially if things keep going like this, no other team's going to want him. Well, who's going to give him 20-something million? What team? They're not going to give him 20-something million.
I guess it would be hard to understand why they would.
The Pats just have to get a tight end and they have to get a speed receiver. I can't believe Belichick, he let Cook go. That problem there with Brown, it's just too bad that once they signed him, he had those problems.
It used up a lot of their cap space,
yeah,
and they got nothing out of it. And it was kind of painful to watch Mason Rudolph last night for the Vikings make a bunch of plays when he was discussed as one of the teams that might have had an extra tight end that they could have negotiated for. But I
don't think
whatever.
Their tight ends are as bad as Lacoste isn't that bad. They just got to throw to him and look for him. And even when Izzo was playing, he's not that bad.
Well, I think it's the whole business is if Brady doesn't have you in his circle of trust, then he won't throw you the ball. Now they have a lot of read options, so depending on what the defensive back plays leverage. If they're inside of you, then they want you to go outside. If they're outside, they want you to go inside. And maybe you'd think that would be easy enough, but obviously it's not so easy on the fly. And receivers also have to read coverage, where the safety is, that sort of thing. So it's easy to say that it's easy, but clearly it hasn't worked out. Although the Texans didn't exactly cover themselves in glory toward the end of the game. The Patriots got a hand on the onside kick at the end of the game, so they were still in it. I don't know how many people stayed up for the whole game, but those diehards like us are, obviously going to be doing it. Now, earlier somebody mentioned about Phillip Rivers being an elite quarterback. Maybe it was Stephen A. Smith on ESPN, but I've never been a Rivers fan. I don't.
How can you be? He hasn't never won anything.
That's what I mean.
How can you be a fan of his? I mean, he's a good quarterback. That's it.
He's a very good quarterback, and he's an exceptionally nice guy. He commutes from San Diego to Los Angeles. He's got some van or something that's got a TV set so he can watch the games and study the film.
Look what he did last year against the Patriots. He didn't do anything.
Well, and they have good receivers too.
He's okay. He's good, but that's it.
Right. And then the other coach who I think is profoundly overrated is John Gruden. I mean, he did win one Super Bowl. I get that, but again, this year the Raiders were hyped. They seem to get it going, and then lately they're back doing nothing.
Were they 6-6 or something?
They're either 6-5 or 6-6, but I don't see them as a threat to do anything.
No, but they're better than they've been over the last several years. So, since Carr's first year, I think.
And they were also on the Antonio Brown train wreck. So
I wonder how much money Antonio Brown's going to get between Oakland and the Patriots.
That's a great question. I mean, I'm sure he's going to land on his feet, unless he gets into,
what a disaster that was, though.
Unless he has a legal problem. And then the other team that has been pretty miserable lately is the Green Bay Packers. Brett Favre has been ineffective the last 3 games. Now, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers. Most of the time, what happens is it's revealed there's some kind of dispute between Rodgers and the coach. Everybody says, oh, it's the coach's fault, and then they get a new coach. Well, they got the new coach and it hasn't gone better for Rodgers. So at some point along the way, maybe Rodgers isn't, people talk like he's the best quarterback in football.
Number one, there shouldn't be an offensive coordinator. The quarterback should be calling the plays. They would know way more than the offensive coordinator. The thing that I can't stand is, you know what I think about McDaniels. There are a lot of coaches that I don't like that people love. I don't think Stevens is as good as people think he is. And I don't think that McDaniels is as good as people think he is. I think he's maybe good at structuring the offense. He's good at that, but he's terrible play caller. I mean, just look at the plays. I mean, they get down to the 20-yard line, he runs the ball twice in a row. So now they get stuffed twice, and Brady's got to throw on third down when they're blitzing them. Instead of going play action.
Well, so they run the ball the first down, and it's 0 or 1 yard gain, so it's 2nd and 9. So then 2nd and long in the NFL becomes a running play, so you don't have to go 3rd and 9. So instead you go 3rd and 5, which 3rd and 5 for the Patriots isn't a gimme anymore.
No, especially when they're blitzing Brady and they're not getting open.
Right. So there's no Gronk to get open, and now that's not Brady's fault. On the other hand, as you said, that you can't use trick plays all the time to try to make things happen.
Here's the problem, one of the main problems, besides the receivers aren't separating much. The main problem is they're not letting Brady get into a rhythm. They should be putting him in the hurry-up offense like he likes, get the defensive line tired because you're hurrying, and just pick them apart. Put 5 wide and go after them that way. Let him get some rhythm there. When they're running the ball, a quarterback like Brady, over the years, when they're running the ball, even though Brady's thrown more passes than any other quarterback in football this year, they still don't put him in a hurry-up. The ground game has been so bad, they're throwing, but most of the time they know it. They'll run the ball once, and then they'll throw, twice.
He was really exceptional avoiding the rush the other day. I mean, doing his ducking and weaving.
But what would you do as an offensive coordinator?
No, I agree that they're more effective when they are playing with tempo. Now, the question is, can the younger players, do the younger receivers know how to do that? Do they understand the routes well enough at this point? It can't be much worse than they've got right now because they're not getting open. So, what
are you confident that they could get back into the
Well, I've just seen them
Super Bowl?
I've seen this horror movie before where somebody declares them dead, they're on to Cincinnati, and then they come out of it. So the easy pick right now is to say Baltimore is unbelievable and they have Lamar Jackson, yeah. But, what happens when Lamar Jackson sprains his ankle or gets a knee sprain because he gets hit running as much as he does?
San Fran did a pretty good job against him, even though he ran for 100 yards. I mean, he didn't pass the ball much. Wasn't that effective. The weather wasn't great either. So, but, what I'm hoping for the Patriots is that all of a sudden Harry becomes the end that they hope he can be. Maybe Brady throws to him 10 times in a game, catches 7 or 8 passes, and you have Edelman, and then the other guys fit in. I think Brady got a little rhythm there, even though Houston, backed off some.
Well, I don't know what happened in that Michelle started off pretty well, and then just got
can't catch a pass. So if they're going to go through passing game. I thought White played his best game in the last 5.
Yeah, he had something like 165, 170 yards from scrimmage between rushing and receiving. So,
but Brady threw the ball pretty good there in the fourth quarter. I mean,
right. Well, they're in the prevent defense.
No, but still, he made that real nice pass to Edelman for the touchdown. He made that real nice pass to White, the second one White caught for a touchdown. He had to put it right in there on the run.
Right. He scrambled up the middle. So
you got to get them going. You got to get them going early. When they started the game off against Houston and ran the ball twice, I'm going, what are they doing? They think they're going to run against Houston, even though they were successful in a couple of them. You got to get Brady going, then run.
And against Kansas City, they got Hill, they've got Kelsey, they've got Hardman. They got a lot of speed.
Watkins playing? Is he still healthy? Is he healthy?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, he's tough too.
They've got something like, I think they call them the 4 Jets or something as far as the speed they have. So do you want to get in a track meet with Kansas City?
One thing I got to say, though, the defensive coaches, who's ever calling the plays in that game against Houston, were terrible in that game. Terrible. They were leaving their cornerbacks one-on-one with no free safety in there. Hopkins one play. What is Gilmore going to do with him when the middle is wide open?
Right. It's a different deal when you're playing Josh Allen, who's not that accurate and doesn't know what to do, versus Deshaun Watson, who's capable quarterback, clearly read. And they showed what happened when the Patriots rotated the safety over and isolated the running back on, was it Mayo?
Yeah.
No, Van Noy. Excuse me, Van Noy. And I mean, that's just a bad matchup for anybody when you got a running back on the linebacker. So
That was a terrible setup. I mean, they got out-coached there. They got out-coached when they blitzed the free safety, when Hopkins got that first down over the middle. I mean, what do they think about? At least keep one safety in there. Fake like you're going to blitz him and drop him back. So they make that pass where Hopkins crossing across the middle, and one of them clobbers him. You know, I mean, they had no one there. I mean, it's bad. That was really bad coaching. They thought that blitzing him was better than leaving Gilmore one-on-one with no free safety.
Earlier in the year, the Patriots were, through time, they've been vulnerable to tight ends, shallow crosses, and running backs over the middle. And what they've reverted back to is the sort of St. Louis Rams defense where when one of these guys comes over the middle, one of the linebackers annihilates them. So then I'm sure that if you're a wide receiver who's 190, you say, like, I do not want to run into Hightower. That's not a good time, you know, because they'll be out for a month with a concussion.
But you know the one thing the Patriots cannot do? Belichick cannot go in the game thinking that, okay, we're going to try to eat up the clock against Kansas City. The less time they have the ball, the better we are. He's got to go into the game where he puts Brady. He's got to outscore Kansas City by letting Brady go with the hurry up.
Well, it'll be interesting to see because I think he's more into he's shown over the past when the Giants beat Buffalo, when the Patriots beat the Rams, that going into the slowdown mode is what, you know, they'd rather try to win the game 24-21 than 38-35. And, you know, we'll see.
Rely on your defense and go after them with your offense. That's my feeling in that game. If they try to run the ball, they're going to have problems. You know, if they try to run the ball and they have Brady in 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8 constantly, it's going to be they're just going to blitz Brady.
Yeah, I haven't seen the spread. Have you seen the spread yet for the game?
No, I haven't even seen it. I would think, is this the one game where
I would think Kansas City would probably be favored by 3 or 4. I don't know.
It'd probably be a pick 'em. Patriots 1 or 2, somewhere around there.
So, anyway, really interesting. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We're both in preseason basketball mode with some kind of action, fall league, whatever you want to call it. And tell us about what your team did this weekend.
Well, I coach my friend's team, St. Peter's Pizza Marion, in the tournament. As a matter of fact, Somerville was in the tournament. Wilmington and Reading we played. We played both of those teams.
Okay.
Mills, who won the Division III, and another real good team. I forget the other team that was a strong team in Division III last year, one of the top teams. It was a nice tournament. We played 5 games. Went 4-1, beat Reading. I think Melrose is going to. I think they'll match up real good with Reading. That should be a victory. Reading had everybody. So we're going great, and we're playing Wilmington. We're up 17 points in the second half. Okay, 17 points. Playing unbelievable. It's that we scored like 12 points in a row. We lost in overtime. That girl, Junior, the point guard, hit a 3 at the end.
Okay.
But it was a bet. Now, when you talk about losing a game, that game was perfect for a team. It was perfect because they showed how good they could be. They played great when they were pressuring, when they were playing man-to-man. Wilmington went into a zone, and we started making some bad plays. They started hitting threes. You know, they banked in a 3, which cut the lead to 4. It was 7. You know, we didn't do a good job at all, but it was really good. Then they took the lead. We came back. We tied it. In overtime, we were up 1. They hit it with 4 seconds to go. They hit a 3-pointer to win by 2. But it was a fun tournament, and it was great for the girls to play in that. My friend who coaches them, you know, he tapes the games, so they're going to go over. I mean, they played great basketball. Then we played the last game against Mills, who won the States, I believe, last year. And they play a great trap. We ended up beating them by 10. We worked on it. But that's what you get. You know, you talk about things. But it was a real fun tournament, though.
Yeah, we've played 7 games in a couple tournaments preseason, our 8th grade girls from Melrose. And, you know, I'm not going to make excuses for the principal issue for us is we haven't had enough practice. We've only had 4 practices. We've missed 2 because of holidays and 1 because of the snowstorm. So, I mean, you really can't develop any coherent philosophy without practice. And we're doing okay. We're 4-3. We have some promising players that are coming along. You know, we have one girl, Cecilia Kay, who's a phenomenal young player, phenomenal young person, and she goes to St. Mary's. So I don't know where she's going to be in the future, but I'm sure she's got 2 brothers and sisters who run in college. Her brother just won the state championship in cross country at Arlington Catholic with the first time that.
She going to Arlington Catholic?
I don't know. So it's the first time that a smaller school runner has beaten the larger school runner since 2008. He had the fastest time in the state of 359 qualifiers for the state championship. And so she had a game this weekend where in 25 minutes she had 35 points and 16 rebounds. And
how tall is she now, Ron?
She's 5'11".
Wow, she's that tall now?
She's 5'11", and she can score inside, she can score outside. She finished the game by making 3 consecutive three-pointers.
Is she going to grow anymore?
Probably, a little bit. So,
how old is she?
13 and a half.
How tall are her brothers?
She might be the tallest person in the family, I don't know. But, you know, she's just a terrific young lady, and no matter where she goes to school, I'll be a big fan.
That's fine. We won't hear about it for after this year.
Well, you know, in any regard, she's just a terrific young person. And we always talk about the hot stove league, and it looks like it's starting to heat up a little bit. Players had to be offered tenders or non-tendered. The Red Sox traded Sandy Leon to Cleveland for nothing. I mean, they got some Double-A pitcher who's not good, so that you'll never hear his name again. And I was really surprised they non-tendered Marco Hernandez, who seemed like was a speedy utility player, and I guess they must have thought they were going to have to pay too much for him. How much could they pay? $1.5 million?
You know what they're going to have this year? They're going to have a real good bullpen. Some of those younger guys that pitch really well at the end.
Like Taylor was good.
Yeah, they're going to be real. That Latin guy is real good, the young guy. I don't know if...
Oh, Hernandez.
Hernandez.
Darwin's and Hernandez.
He's going to be real good.
Yeah, he's sort of like... He reminds me of like a young CC Sabathia. Throws really hard.
No, they got a bullpen that, I mean, they're going to be strong. They're going to be, let's put it this way, they're going to be deep. If they can get that one relief pitcher, closer, with that bullpen, the one thing you have to worry about as a Red Sox fan is the starters.
Yeah, they've got
the help.
They've got a ton of money, like almost, I think it's over 70. It's almost $80 million committed to Sale, Price, and Evaldi, and you don't know if they're healthy even.
The 3 things the Yankees have to do with that talent: they have to get Cole, number 1. They have to sign him.
Well, you know what the problem with getting Cole is? It's the luxury tax they're going to be paying.
Well, they got so much money.
I know. They said if they sign him to...
Maybe they'll get rid of Stanton. Who knows?
They said if they sign him to $30 million a year, they're going to have to pay an extra 40%.
But here's what they have to do. They have to sign Cole. They have to tell Stanton and Sanchez, you can play all the way up to the playoffs, but you're not playing in the playoffs. So you can even go on vacation. I don't care what you do. But you're not playing in the playoffs because you both stink in the playoffs. You're useless. I said that before they went into the playoffs. I said, I don't know if Boone has the guts to sit them both down.
That's the criticism of Mookie Betts in the playoffs. Is he hasn't been great. I mean, he's had moments, but he hasn't been great. Now, I'm presuming the Red Sox are going to trade him because I don't think they want to pay him. So the problem is, a guy in a 1-year contract who's projected to make $27-28 million, how much are you going to get back? I mean, I think they should keep him and roll the dice and see what happens.
And another thing the Yanks should do, don't forget Andujar was hurt. He was a rookie of the year the previous year. Make him a left fielder. You make him a left fielder and keep Urshela at third, who's the best field and third baseman in baseball, He'll hit around 300 at a great year. I should call Boone and tell him what he should be doing.
Well, Jacoby Ellsbury's probably on a beach somewhere in the Bahamas or something.
They pay him off. They still got to pay him the $23 million.
Yeah, he's still not playing for the Yankees.
You were 100% right when they made that deal. I was all excited. I said it's going to help the Yankees and hurt the Red Sox. And you said no way back then when they did it. And look what happened. I mean,
well, it just didn't work out for the Yankees. And I mean, he went 2 years without playing. They finally cut bait. I mean, you know, I get it. If you make your living with your legs and you get older and have injuries, then what can you say? Somehow, every time I hear Dustin Pedroia's name, it reminds me of Jurassic Park because he is such a dinosaur for the Red Sox. I think he's got 2 more years. He's getting like 13
or 14.
Yeah, which is it's
he
fine.
wants to play this year. He's working out.
Great, you know. He can play in his kid's wiffle ball.
I'll tell you one
league.
thing though, Ron. Since he's been out, that second base position on defense has been terrible. They can't get to balls. They make errors. I mean, he was unbelievable. So, I mean, if I was a Red Sox fan, I'd be praying that a miracle happened.
Well, when you think about what they had offensively, all right, Vasquez, 20-plus home runs. Bogarts and Devers together, phenomenal. Betts and J.D. Martinez, very productive. And still, they barely have 500 because the pitching was so bad.
But what a difference if Cashman signed Martinez instead of Stanton. What a difference that would have made. The Red Sox would end up with Stanton. The fans would be so aggravated with him. You know, why how'd you let Martinez go? Instead, it worked that way. Martinez, they would have probably won a championship with him.
Also, Martinez took the option to sign with the Red Sox for another year and go year to year, which makes total sense because obviously the free agent market was, as far as any kind of long-term deal with more money, wasn't there. So whatever you think about Scott Boras, pro or con, he's always right. So I guess it's easy to be right when you can field offers and say, look, nobody's going to give you any more than the Red Sox are. You don't have to move. You know, if you can be DH, nothing wrong with that. It's 90 degrees. You can just be sitting in the dugout. Go back to the back room in the air conditioner, cool off.
Yeah, in 2 months they're going to be back in spring training.
I know it's really hard to believe that. College football, it's looking like Ohio State, LSU, Clemson, and Georgia for the Final Four right now, which that's not so bad. It'll probably be Ohio State and the winner of LSU and Clemson, which that should be a heck of a football game.
That'd be a great game. Lawrence is looking so much better now.
Lawrence is only a sophomore, right?
Yeah, he can't come out this year.
He can't.
No, after next year. You have to stay in 3 years.
Okay.
So he'll come out after next year, which is good for him because he had a bad start. He still would have been a number 1 pick even with that bad start. I mean, there are a couple of guys in college that throw the ball really well. You know, I've seen some games. I forget this one player.
Well, you've got the Alabama quarterback. We'll put him on the back burner. You got Burrows at LSU. You've got Lawrence. You've got I think his name is Taylor Morgan at Minnesota. Throws a really good ball.
Yeah.
You've got Hurts. Hurts has put himself back into the picture. He's had a good year at Oklahoma.
Oh, you knew that. I'm surprised he didn't come out last year because he would have been picked in the first round. The way he was throwing the ball, he had that quarterback coach that worked with him all year last year at Alabama. That's what made him a great passer.
And I believe he's the coach's son. I think his dad was a football coach. So, you know, I think he knows the game. He's reestablished value. So
he's going to be real, and he can run.
Yeah, right.
He can throw the ball and he can run.
I mean, if there was a time in our lifetimes where if the black quarterback was kind of their aspersions cast. No, he's an athlete. He can't see the field, whatever. But nowadays, you got Russell Wilson, one of the top candidates for MVP. You got Mahomes. You got Jackson. So, I mean, you got terrific young players who can run, they can throw, they know the game. You know, so maybe the Patriots would be drafting Hurts.
Yeah, I'd like to see him get someone like him. Guy that can run and has a good arm.
Supposedly McDaniels wanted Jackson, and Belichick didn't want to go for a quarterback at that point. Of course, there had just been a huge quarterback controversy anyway, so maybe that was the right thing. Well, the Celtics are off to a reasonable start, although it seems like they've been playing bad team after bad team. Milwaukee's won 12 games in a row.
They're looking real good, Milwaukee. They're killing everybody.
Yeah, so that between the Greek Freak, Chris Middleton, George Hill, they've got a nice club up there. So they look like
Toronto's
the power.
looking real good. Miami's looking good. Celtics play Miami tomorrow at home.
That should be a good
They
game.
need Hayward back though. It's funny though. Last game they play against the Knicks, Smart goes out in the third quarter. All right, he's out for the rest of the game.
Is this an abdominal injury?
He got hit there, but you know him. He got poked in the eye and he went down on the floor. And he's a good actor, that's for sure. I mean, he takes a lot. He's physical, and he's having a good year. But here's the problem with the Celtics with Smart. Smart thinks he's an all-star defensive player.
Sure.
One of the top 5 defensive players in the league. Problem with Smart is he thinks he's one of the top 5 offensive players in the league too.
He's a good pick and roll player. He's good on isolation against little guards, but he's.
But here's what happens.
He's not an all-star.
The best thing that happened to Tatum and Brown was Kyrie going, Morris going, Rozier going, and the biggest thing, Horford going. That's the best thing that happened to those 2 guys.
Well, Kemba Walker he doesn't seem to really care too much about whether he's going to score because he's a really good player, but he doesn't.
Walker's not as good as people think he is.
Yeah. Well,
He's not the max player.
Well, Tatum at least is passing this year, which he didn't pass. He had 7 assists the other day.
But how about being Tatum? Smart goes, just to end that topic, Smart goes out, Tatum scores 30 points, Brown scores 28.
Yeah.
They don't have to worry about Smart thinking he's an all-star with the ball. All right, they're getting their hands on the ball. They would much rather play with Hayward, and because they know Hayward's going to break down teams, dish the ball, let them be stars. But how about it's going to be a contract year next year for Tatum? Tatum's going to be in the same position as Brown. He's getting 20 shots a game. He knows he's going to average around 20 points. What does that bring for a contract? You saw what Brown got, and Brown doesn't have to worry about his contract for the next 4 years.
Brown, right now the contract for Brown looks pretty good because he's border. I'm not saying he's going to be an all-star, but he's borderline all-star.
But he's happy because it's a 4-year contract and he could make upwards near 30, 28.
Yeah.
I think he's guaranteed 25, 20, whatever it is.
Yeah.
He can make up to 28. So Brown's happy with that. But Brown knows I'm 23. When I'm 27 in the prime of my career, there's a new contract coming.
Right.
And there's a 6-year contract coming, probably about 30-something million. So he's all set. But Tatum's looking at it and saying, wow, I don't have those other guys dominating the basketball. I'm getting the ball as much as I want to. I'm going to average at least 20 points a game. I'm going to become the player I want to become. At 23 years old, I'm going to get a 4 or 5 year contract, upwards of 30 million. And then after that, I'll be a max player making 40-something million.
Well, and aside from that, his mother's a lawyer.
Yeah.
So the money's not even leaving the family.
But Ron, just think of it. Imagine you being one of their agents.
Oh.
Knowing the difference between last year with Kyrie, right?
Right.
Kyrie and those other 3 players dominating the ball when they were in the games. Because people don't realize Horford dominated the ball. They ran up through the high post. They ran through him a lot. So Tatum and Brown weren't handling the ball. You get him out of there, Rozier out of there, Kyrie out of there, and Morris.
Are you coming over to my side yet on Wanamaker?
After you talked about it, after the show, he played a great game. Then he stunk. Remember that next game? He just stunk.
He had one bad game.
But then he came back and played 2 good games.
Yeah, he's coming along.
I did say the more experience he gets, he's the type of player who could be better. I don't know if he's ever going to get to where we hope he can get. He'll be a reliable.
The guy who's going to surprise down the stretches, if he has enough games he can play, is Waters. Waters is really good.
You know, my son loves Waters over Edwards. He should be up there.
Yeah, I mean,
If
Waters.
someone goes down,
Waters was the G League Player of the Month.
but the only thing with him is the first game he plays in, he takes 4 3-pointers. Misses, but he kept shooting.
Yeah.
But Waters is the type of player who could be really good. Problem they're going to have is if Waters plays with Walker, you got 2 guys that are small. But Waters and Edwards are very good on-the-ball defensive players.
Well, what we're seeing is that so far Edwards is mostly, he's lost his touch, unfortunately.
Here's what Edwards has done. Although last game against the Knicks, he played good all around, but he still hasn't scored. I guess when he hits his first 3-pointers after missing the first 50, maybe he'll get going.
Grant Williams hasn't made one, or has he made
No,
any?
I'm talking about Grant. Who are you talking about?
I'm talking about Carson Edwards.
Oh, Edwards.
No, Williams is a good player, but he's just, it's in his head right now. He's turned into Ben Simmons.
And he's small, too. I mean, he'd be an adequate player to play defense, but
Yeah,
he's never going to be a star.
No. So,
They got to get that star somewhere. I mean, a guy coming off the bench who's...
yeah, I mean, you have to catch lightning in a bottle. You know, we don't know what Langford is yet. He's always hurt.
He got hurt again.
I know. So we'll see. Maybe it'll be something. I've enjoyed being with you tonight. I'm Ron Sen.
And I'm Ralph LaBella, and thank you for watching Let's Talk Sports.